Hello, I'm Richard Beck. I'm the mayor of Brookville, and I wish to welcome you to our town.
Welcome to Brookville, Pennsylvania. Located on the Allegheny Plateau, Brookville is home to a community rich in history and local pride. Join us as residents show and tell everything that makes their community a great hometown. Your friends and neighbors welcome you to our town, Brookville. Support for our town, Brookville, comes from Miller Welding and Machine Company, a single-source solution for metals manufacturing, and a proud employer and supporter of the Brookville community for more than 50 years. More information at millerwelding.com. The Matson Companies, providing the world with hardwood lumber for over 200 years and the community with a full line of insurance services since 1947. Information at matsonlumber.com and matsoninsurance.com. Penn Highlands Brookville, serving the community since 1915 with a broad spectrum of inpatient and outpatient services, including home health nursing and an inpatient geropsychiatric unit. phhealthcare.org. The Area Transportation Authority, providing reliable, safe public transit to riders across 6 counties, serving senior citizens, commuters, and the disabled, and stimulating business throughout our region. ATA, rural transportation for our town, Brookville, and beyond. The Laurel Eye Clinic, providing a better vision for you for 30 years. From cataract surgery to routine eye care, and now bladeless LASIK. More information at laureleye.com. And from viewers like you, thank you.
My name's David Taylor, and I'm an historian, and I'm here to talk about the history and the architecture of Brookville. Brookville was initially settled even before the town was laid out, around 1800. 2 brothers named Barnett came here, and they settled about a mile west of town. Joseph Barnett built an inn at the little settlement called Port Barnett. Brookville, as a community, was established in 1830. The town was laid out in 1830. Jefferson County was formed, and Brookville was named its county seat, and it's a position, of course, which it still holds. Lumber was the main reason that Brookville grew. The early lumbering was dependent on waterways. The way that they got the timber out of the area before the railroad came along was by water. And they would build rafts, lash them together, create bracket dams on the creeks, and then they'd blow up the bracket dam, and the water would flow down, and these rafters would go to Pittsburgh, where the lumber would be sold, and then walk home. So they were hardy stock. By the time of the Civil War, Brookville had become reasonably well developed. The railroad came in the 1870s, and by that time coal was starting to be explored. Later into the 19th century then, we developed some more sophisticated industry. There was a furniture company here in Brookville called the Deemer Furniture Company. There was a glass plant that made window glass. In the early years of the 20th century, a man by the name of Twyford gathered up some investors, and he developed and built the world's first 4-wheel drive automobile here in town. It was obviously way ahead of its time and didn't last. One of the things that we're very fortunate to have in Brookville is a marvelous repertoire of historic architecture. There were several fires in the 1870s and 1880s which basically wiped out most of the settlement architecture here. The buildings that were built after that were in the Italianate style that we think of as Victorian Main Street style of architecture. Our domestic architecture runs the whole gamut with Italianate houses, French Second Empire style houses with their mansard roof, Queen Anne style houses with towers and turrets, 20th century architecture, American four squares, just a whole variety of architecture, and we are recognized for this rich collection of architecture by the fact that we have a 100-acre district that's listed in the National Register of Historic Places. A lot of what's happened in Brookville over the last 20 or 30 years has been because people have pulled together for the betterment of the community, just really working to make Brookville a better place. We're very proud of our town. It is what it is because of the people who live here. I came back in the early 1980s because it was home. I grew up here, graduated from high school here, went to college in Ohio, worked in Ohio, and then had an opportunity to come back to Brookville in the early 1980s to oversee the Main Street program. And it was a dream come true. The seventh generation in the house that I live in that my great-grandfather built. So I'm proud of that, and I now have grandchildren who come visit me in the house, so it's a great place to live.
Hi, my name is Beth Gerg, and I'm so excited to be here today to talk about the Brookville YMCA. No story about Brookville would be complete without talking about the YMCA. And maybe because of that, historic legacy, we have always been so blessed to have phenomenal support from our community. We feel very fortunate to be able to have a full-service YMCA right in the heart of our downtown historic district. Our building, which is very historic, is going to celebrate its 100th year anniversary in 2016. It's funny because, there are a lot of things that in some ways are the same, and then there are a lot of things that are different. We modernize with the times, so to speak. Actually, I remember some of this from when I was a girl because I've been going to the Y since I was in elementary school. I can remember that on the bottom floor of the YMCA, there used to actually be a bowling alley. And now in that same room, it's a spinning class. Some of the things that stay the same, there was a swim team from day one at the YMCA, and we have a phenomenal YMCA swim team now. So there are a lot of the programs that are still there, but then there are so many new programs now that we're able to offer. We have programs for each and every age group. We have our Silver Sneakers fitness class, senior yoga, adult lap swim at the pool, just to name a few. And for the younger set, of course, we have basketball leagues, swim teams, exercise classes for everyone at all level, but we go right down to having a licensed nursery school program that's very popular in the area. They actually stand in line to get enrolled in it. We have such a phenomenal program. We all love it. It's part of our lives, and you just become enmeshed in it. I can remember being at dances at the YMCA, when I was in junior high school. My children have grown up at the YMCA. I talked to quite a few couples that met at the Brookville YMCA, and they're still using it. I just think that's really a testament to the heritage of Brookville, the longevity of the Y, and how we've been able to progress with the times but yet maintain our heritage, and I think that's really important.
Now, my name is Bill Stein, and I'm here to discuss a local organization called Create Brookville. It actually all started in short conversations with some friends about how we'd love to see some art festivals and, just to see the art scene kind of develop here in the Brookville area. And so with those conversations, it developed into, okay, well, let's invite some friends over, and we'll see where we go from there. And next thing you know, we had the right group of people, and we started rolling immediately. It was just a dream at first, to actually have a place. Could we afford a place as a nonprofit? A gentleman came along, and he offered us a fantastic offer on a space. We're right here on Main Street, which gives us great exposure. It's fun because, we have speakers right out on Main Street, and so when we have an event, we always have the speakers playing, and it gets everybody's attention as they drive by. We do multiple activities, such as fiddle jam and open mic night, and Scrabble clubs and photo clubs and book clubs and teen reading and pre-K art, and the list goes on.
Nice. Good work,
we do have gallery space in the cafe, and it's all local vendors. From the pottery to the knitted goods to the artwork. We do display an Artist of the Month, and we typically have an exhibit opening at the beginning of each month. The best part of this all is to see the growing numbers. People are jumping in and helping out. We have new faces in the cafe all the time. So I feel that we've been accepted in the community, and that's a big deal. Well, in a small town like this, it's very difficult for artists to find, somewhere to display their work. They usually have to go to a bigger city or something. So it's a really good feeling to show off the many talents that we have in this area.
having us.
I'm Chloe Johnson, and I'm here to talk about all the fun things there are for kids to do in Brookville. We have part of the rail trail in Brookville. My friends and I like to ride our bikes on the rail trail. In Brookville, there are a lot of parks that you can go to at just about any time. There's Longview, which is pretty fun. They've got a swirly slide, so how could it not be fun? At the Memorial Park, they have equipment for some younger kids and older kids, which is nice. At the Walter Dick Memorial Park, my friends and I like to climb across the rocks, swim, play on the playground, and hike. A lot of times, Kara and I try to get across the rocks without getting wet, but sometimes that's an epic fail because sometimes the rocks are underwater completely. My favorite thing to do would probably be go to the library. It has a children's section, and little kids can get like picture books, and there are like puppets, and there's a dollhouse and a wooden railroad set. And then there are chapter books for older kids. And then we've got the young adult section. That's where I end up most times. Some of the nice things about being my age in Brookville, I like just pretty much everything about it.
Hi, I'm Jim LaPoom. I'm here to speak about the Moonlight All-American Drive-In Movie Theater. I got started at the age of 15 years old. A friend of mine I went to school with, his parents owned the drive-in theater closer to Pittsburgh where I grew up. And they asked me if I wanted a summer job. And I said, of course. And that was 33 years ago. The first drive-in I ever owned was in Vandergrift, Pennsylvania. It was called the Galaxy Drive-In Theater. The Moonlight Drive-In Theater was a long-closed drive-in theater, and a friend of mine that actually worked in the area brought me a video, and I immediately fell in love with the theater. And I purchased the theater in 1996 and opened on May 2nd, 1997. One time there were many drive-in theaters in the area, and we're the last one. The Moonlight Drive-In is not only the only drive-in theater in Jefferson County, we're the only first-run movie theater in the entire county, so we're the core of the entertainment for the entire county. We can fit 475 cars. There's many nights there's been 1,500 to 1,800 people at the drive-in, and then there's other nights, as last night, where there was 45. So, you know, it all depends on the weather and depends on the movies, but when you get that right lineup, the right shows, sometimes on a holiday weekend and the great weather, everybody turns out to enjoy a night at the drive-in. There's nothing like a drive-in theater. We're not so scheduled. You're not in and out the door at a certain time and someone's waiting to take your seat. You come in, you enjoy time with your family and your friends before the show. You have a great dinner sitting under the stars, watching the stars. You're entertained for an entire evening. There's nothing like it. It's magical. And I'm able to bring that together for the families in the area that without the Moonlight Drive-In, they might not get that opportunity. I came to Brookville because of the Moonlight Drive-In, and after spending time in Brookville, I found out that this was a wonderful, friendly place to live, and that's when I decided 8 years ago to move to Brookville. Since coming to Brookville, I've been very involved with the community. I currently serve as a fire chief here. I'm involved with the Lions Club. I'm very proud to be part of Brookville.
My name's Jocelyn Forsyth. I am known as Femme 5-0 with the Northern Allegheny Roller Derby team. Basically, it's a huge group of women who love sports, love to be active, and like roller skating. We get together and play games against a bunch of surrounding teams and beat up on each other and have fun doing it. The team was originated here in Brookville. We started out pretty small, and then just from there it's grown from a bunch of novice skaters to these awesome, powerful women who can rock some roller skates. Roller derby is about what we call derby love. You can go out on the skating rink and beat up on each other legally, and then afterwards go out and eat pizza with them and laugh and smile and hug and talk about what a great time it was. It's really a sisterhood. We've all grown really close. If anyone is anything going on in their personal life, all they have to do is reach out to one of their teammates, and there's always somebody there. We do a lot of community projects. Anytime anything's going on in Brookville, we do it. We do a lot of charitable events. We try to do fundraisers to give back to the community. We just recently, last weekend, did an event where we donated money to the Wounded Warrior Project. Last year, we did a Skate with the Derby Girl program. It was like a 3-hour thing where we skated with a bunch of people that came in, donated dog food, cat food, and things like that for local animal shelters. Once you get into roller derby and you get a taste of it, and I think anyone who is involved in it can vouch for this, that it gets into you, it gets under your skin, and you can't go a day without thinking about it. You can get your stress out, you can have a good time, you get an awesome workout, and it's not a sport where body image is ever brought up, or body type, or any of that. I mean, because you can be any size and play. It's really about empowering women. Northern Allegheny Roller Derby is our league name, and under that we would like to have branches of different teams. Backwards Bruisers are obviously our first team, and eventually we'd like to have a traveling team, and then have like our novice group, which is just up and coming. We'd like to have a junior derby team eventually, one step at a time. Brookville is small, but I was welcomed with open arms. My husband grew up here, he's from here. We decided to come back and raise our family here, so it's a great family place, great people here, wonderful community. There's always something going on, and there's great parks, the schools are awesome. It's very homey.
My name is John Barrett, and I'm the president of the James Slagle Main Street Flag Association. We are responsible for maintaining a display of the American flag on Main Street and on the courthouse of Brookville. The Flag Association was started by my grandfather roughly 19 years ago after his return from Normandy for the 50th anniversary of D-Day. He was a ranger in World War II, wounded on the beach of Omaha. He was actually pulled out of the water several hours later by another GI, and he never was able to meet that GI again. He has no clue who it was. But when he returned, he noticed the lack of display of the American flag here in town and was determined to start a display on Main Street. He originally started with funds of his own, and then a man by the name of Rick Stevens approached my grandfather and said that he would like to help. Rick actually started a flag run with a group of bikers that he was associated with and donated for roughly 15 years all the money from that flag run to the association. We put the flags up in April, and then they stay up until roughly right after Veterans Day in November. There's 3 grandsons that are actually part of the organization. It's my brother Bill and my cousin Ben. I think it's important for the community to display our patriotism, and we're honored to be able to carry on this tradition. I moved away from Brookville for about 10 years, and when my nephew and niece were born and they didn't know who I was when I would come home for visits, that's when I decided that I needed to come back and be with family again. I think you'll find a lot of people in this community end up coming back to the community.
Hi, I'm Michael White, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the community of Sigel. My dad grew up in Pittsburgh and was a big fisherman. He came here to Brookville to the Fish for Fun, which is a fly fishing catch and release. In 1978, we moved here to the community of Sigel. Sigel as an area is just beautiful. It's got lots of hills and creeks, and it's got wild animals running around. It worked out well for us to live so close to Brookville and yet be out in the woods. One of the great areas out in Sigel, obviously, is Truman's Store. It's kind of the cornerstone of Sigel. There's a blinking light there, and you have this great little general store that started in 1865, the same time the town was started. It was a destination for people when they were headed out to camp or for us that lived close by. Truman's Store has been in the family for generations, still owned by the Trumans. They're a great family. They're really involved with the community. So it was great to, to have a resource like that. And across the street from that is the little post office and the fire department, and just down the road from that is the Sigel Civic Center as well. Sigel Civic Center was built in 1950 as the gymnasium for the Eldred Township School. As the schools consolidated, the Civic Center became kind of a community gathering place, and I can remember as a child growing up there in the early 70s and 80s that we'd go there for the Halloween party and the Christmas pageant, and all my Boy Scout meetings were held there. In 1977, the Farmers Inn was started as just a small little restaurant, maybe had 10 or 12 tables. Over the years, it's just grown, and it's become a destination now. You can go out there and you can do Pan for Gold, you can do driving range, you could check out her petting zoo. It's that restaurant that's in Sigel that all the people who are at the store or whatever, they talk about, hey, well, I'm heading out to the Farmers Inn next. I'm a passionate mountain biker, so in 2006 I started the Fat Tire Mountain Bike Challenge. It is a great little grassroots mountain bike race. It's an awesome opportunity to ride through the Laurel Fields. The Laurel Fields has been something I can remember going to as a kid, and as a mountain biker I wanted to ride there, and so I started bringing other mountain bikers out there to see it as well. It's a great place to raise a family. Sometimes I'll take my kids out to these places, or I'll go to the Farmers Inn, and I'm like, when Dad was growing up, he did this. They're getting to experience some of the things that I'm living vicariously, again, through my children's eyes. At this time in their lives, you want them to remember the great things that don't necessarily take batteries and electronics and that kind of thing. And so that's how I grew up. I grew up in Sigel with, riding my bike places and, enjoying the outdoors, and that's what I wanted my children to enjoy as well.
My name is Bruce Sykes. I'm here to talk about my art in an installation that I created just this past week. I like to call myself a conceptual artist, concept the idea. I think the idea is the most important thing when creating work. I have a love affair with materials, and so when I have an idea, the idea stems from the materials. I find a material that I like, I'll investigate it, and then I'll see what direction I want to take that. Right now I'm working with mops used in the cleaning industry, and I'm taking that and I'm making furniture out of those mops. I'm doing a series, it's called mirror imaging. It's a technique I came up with when I was working in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. I took my camera out and I'd come back after a day of photographing, and I get on my computer and I take an image and flip it again, and flip it again. I called that mirror imaging. When I came back to the United States, I continued that process, and I just had my first one-man show at the Create space down the road here. Create Brookville is a great organization. They really have an impact on bringing the arts to the people here. They really invigorated me to start creating more art. Nature inspires me to do a lot of my pieces. I'm always looking at what Mother Nature has given us. Blind dance came about when a friend of mine, his mother was in the window treatment business. He said, I have all these rolls of blinds that she doesn't want anymore. And I looked at him, I said, yes, I can do something with them. One day up on the river, I was walking across this bridge, as a wire bridge, and I just kind of put the two together. Why can't I just hang these blinds on the bridge? When the wind came by, it just gave a beautiful movement to this installation, and it caused them just to fly into the air, and it was just like a dance, and so that's where the name Blind Dance came from. I've lived in areas in the Southwest. I've lived up in Fargo, North Dakota. I've lived in cities, and I've always come back to this area. What I really like about Brookville, and I'll be honest with you, is just a small town atmosphere. You can't buy that anywhere. It is special, and the people here are special. They'll be the first ones, if you need help, they'll come knocking at your door. They'll volunteer for anything. It's just a wonderful place to live. I'm extremely happy that I found this town.
My name's Julie Peer, and I am the current president at the Brookville Hospital, now Penn Highlands Brookville, and I'm here to talk a little bit about the services that we give to our community. The hospital has been up on the hill for just about 100 years, serving the community. We are currently a 35-bed hospital. We have a lot of dedicated people that have been there for many years at the hospital. We employ about 250 employees. That includes RNs, LPNs, we have med techs in the laboratory, radiology techs, all kinds. We have OT, PT, speech therapists, so a wide range of employees. We have a 24/7 emergency room department that's staffed with RNs and a physician to provide those services, and we have an array of outpatient services that we offer. We see about 10,000 patients a year in our ED, so people can come through there, and depending on what's needed, then you may go to the laboratory to have lab tests, radiology tests. We have a wide arrangement of radiology. We do MRI, CT, ultrasound, whatever you might need to find out what your problem is. Then we may admit you to the hospital, or if it's something that's a higher level that we can't take care of at Brookville, we can send you on to one of our sister hospitals like a Du Bois Regional, or even down to Pittsburgh to a bigger hospital for what you need done. Stat Medevac is in our area, so if there are traumas or things that come into our hospital, they can be there in minutes and they can fly people to where they need to be. It's really nice having that service available. We decided several years ago that being a small community hospital is really hard in this environment to make a go of it and to be able to offer everything that we can for the community and to be able to make it financially. We had talked to Du Bois Regional about getting into a system with them. Since then, that system has grown to the Penn Highlands system. It now includes Clearfield, Elk, Du Bois, and Brookville Hospital. We also have 3 rural health clinics. So we have one in Brookville to service the family practices. We also have one in Marionville and New Bethlehem and Fairmont City, which is really nice because it kind of pulls from a bigger area, and we can also service those communities that don't have hospitals right there. In a small community, you know so many people, and it's gratifying to know that you're up there, and that if you're, one of your family members or a friend is in need and needs medical service, they can come right to our hospital. We have a great staff of physicians that can take care of anything that comes our way. Brookville is such a small, close-knit community. I love here. I've been here for 25 years. I love the people, and I love being part of the hospital because of that, because I get to see a lot of the community members. I just love being part of this small community. I raised my kids here. It's a great place to raise kids.
I'm Ginger Verdill, and I'll be talking about Bill's Barn Cats Cat Rescue. Bill's Barn Cats is the rescue I made in memory of my grandfather after he passed away. It started because he had a handful of barn cats, and they were all pregnant. We really didn't have room for that many cats, so I decided I was going to raise the kittens, get them adopted, and spay and neuter the moms. We had 7 adults, and then we had 20 kittens. I decided that this was when I was gonna do my adopting out and everything, so I got supplies and I got all the kitties in cages so they wouldn't get pregnant again after they had kittens, and then we got them all adopted. I'd always loved animals. I always thought I was a dog person, but it turns out I'm a cat person, and I wanted to help them because I felt like it was my responsibility now. We have people who give us donations, mostly food donations, supplies donations, but some people are nice enough to sponsor spay. And we recently had a t-shirt fundraiser that we raised $500 on, so that's gonna pay for all the kittens we have now to get their spays and neuters. The vet we use is in Pittsburgh, and her name is Dr. Morrow. She's from Frankie's Friends, and she helps us tremendously. They have low-cost clinics that help us cut down our costs, because without it, we wouldn't be able to do this rescue. We have a Facebook page that we have people like if they're interested in adopting or just to show their support, and we also were in the paper just last week. I feel like it's a big accomplishment for me, but it's also a lot of work, and a lot of people I don't think realize that it is, especially when I have school to juggle and taking care of the cats. Brookville's a small place. Not many people know about it, but I love Brookville. It means a lot to me, and I know that I have a lot of support.
Hi, I'm Tracy Zentz. I'm the first assistant fire chief for the Brookville Fire Company. The fire company's been around for 105 years. It started by a petition from a gentleman by the name of Charles Sigel in the summer of 1909, where he petitioned the town through a letter to the editor in the local newspaper to form an organized firefighting force for the community of Brookville. We have about 40 active members, and the membership is probably the biggest asset that we have within the fire company. It's like an extended family for us all. We have men and women both. We have junior members. Junior members can start out when they're 14 years of age. My wife is third generation. Both of our children are involved in it, and they're fourth generation. My brother was initially a firefighter many years ago, which kind of sparked my interest when I turned 18, and been here ever since. When we're not answering calls, we're usually training. So every Monday night, we have some form of training to keep our skills up. We respond to hazardous material incidents, of course, the vehicle accidents, medical calls, storm-related incidents. Sometimes fighting fires is the very least of what we do anymore. We have some of the finest equipment out there. We work very hard to raise money, and when you fundraise, you have a sense of pride because you know that it was your hard work that made it happen to get the equipment into town and that. So the members take very good care of it. We're very, very proud of that. We do a lot of activities in the community. We participate with the fire prevention at the schools. We sponsor community days, which is a big event where we bring the town together to tell them thank you for what they've done for us. We participate with the light up night, and that's always enjoyable to me because I'm usually the one driving the ladder truck that brings Santa Claus into town. So I really enjoy that every year. To be able to help protect our families, our friends, to serve, to give back to the community, truly is, in my blood and something that I'll cherish for the rest of my life.
I'm Stacy Haig, and I'm here to talk about Coffee Cakes. Coffee Cakes is my cousin Heather and I's business that we started here in Brookville. We're on our second location, which is in Main Street, the old McCabe Pharmacy building. You walk into it, and it's like stepping back in time. We have a look that a lot of people try to recreate that's original in the space. You have the original punch tin ceiling. It's refinished and done in a metallic copper. We have original hardwood floor, original brick wall, counters that were hand carried out of the basement. Create Brookville helped us do that. Put them on a flatbed truck, drove them around the front of the building, and put them back in place for the first time since the 1800s. That was remarkable. We knew the building when it was a pharmacy, but then it was track lighting and metal shelving and linoleum for the floor, and we walked in, and at this point he had found the original wall. Original hardwood, it was stripped down, not even stained yet, and we fell in love with it. Heather and I grew up right up the street, and we could walk downtown when we were kids, and for us, cooking and baking, that was always a holiday thing that we did with Grandma and Mom. That's really how Heather and I started our business. We kind of picked that tradition back up and started baking with our kids over the holidays. We started doing biscotti, fudge, gourmet apples, and after a few years of us doing that and just gifting it to friends and family for holidays, we started getting people who wanted to buy it from us, and we started taking orders. Brookville is a very supportive community. When we opened, we really did make friends, and people said, hey, I remember what it was like to do what you guys are doing. Even when we were opening the new shop, it was midnight, and we had not left. And we had like a couple days before we were getting ready to open, and all of a sudden someone's beating on the door. And it was the hoax bringing us dinner. It was midnight. They knew we hadn't went home. So that's just like, and they said they remember when, her and Jean had been setting up the first insurance agency. So that's what Brookville's like, just that real close-knit community.
Hi, I'm Kathy Lynch, President of Historic Brookville Incorporated, and we're here to talk about the historic Brookville Town's future town square. Historic Brookville Incorporated was chartered in 1982. Our goal is to perpetuate, preserve, and educate the architectural and historic character of Brookville. We have had many, many wonderful projects, but the one I'm most excited about right now is our Town Square project. The site of the Town Square is where the American Hotel stood from 1850s to the 1960s. And in the 1960s, a service station was built on that property, right in the center of town, right next to our gorgeous courthouse. And it remained there until 2005 when it closed. We were determined we were going to build this Town Square. So we held a Town Square meeting, and I asked all the members of the community that were sitting there to reach deep into their pockets because we were broke and we couldn't do it by ourselves. And they did. And in 2009, we purchased the property. Amazing. The generosity of people in this community is just amazing. And they truly believe that this is a good thing. There's going to be a big lawn in the front and steps going up to a grove area where we'll have shaded trees and seating, a waterfall that's going to look more like a brook, and a trellis, a staging area where we can have performances. And it is adjacent to the courthouse. So we're using all the materials that are native to this area. The pillars in the front are going to match the lower part of the courthouse. It's just going to be beautiful. I can't wait. I'm hoping the groundbreaking could be October of 2014, but realistically, I think it will be in the spring of 2015. 38 years ago, my husband was looking for a place to practice medicine. We stopped at the American Hotel Interchange restaurant, which was out on the boulevard, for lunch. I said, "There's a hospital here. Why don't we go check it out?" We made that turn to Main Street, and as we were coming down over the hill, I noticed this beautiful view. And it was love at first sight. I looked at him and I said, I could live here. I know I could live here. The people, the residents of this community have such a pride and a commitment. And I became involved with Historic Brookville because I want every family that comes down over that hill to feel the same way I do. I love this town.
Hi, I'm Jennifer Black, and I'm from Blackbird Distillery, located right here in Jefferson County. How we got started, it's kind of a long little story, but I'll try to keep it as short as possible. About 8 years ago, my husband built a still. Now, you can build a still and make moonshine as long as you're not selling it, okay? So he would have me try this, and it was wicked. I mean, I never had fuel oil, but if I had fuel oil, that's what it tasted like. In 2011, we were taking our son down to college in Florida and stopped at a distillery down there. Came back, went on the Pennsylvania Liquor Control Board's website and saw they were having distilling licenses. We made appointments with distilleries all across the country, and we went and met with owners to see if this was a good business to get into. And obviously it was. Well, what you find at Blackbird, you find a handcraft like they did back in the woods. Everything we do there, we do by hand. We make our moonshine in small batches. It's a corn whiskey, so we get corn from a local farmer. In our factory, my husband hand mashes, goes in the fermenters, it's piped down the back, goes into the stills, and comes out to be this beautiful bottle of moonshine. Now, this is Blackbird's. This is straight shine right out of the still. We have 9 flavors. We have American, which is a bourbon. It's aged in charred oak barrels for at least 100 days. We have banana, pineapple, peach, lemon drop, and apple black. Now, apple black is a moonshine with an apple flavor and a cinnamon stick. He's taste tested. Well, we do like to do the taste testing, but not during business hours, of course. We want to create little stores, and you can walk on a little wooden porch and go from store to store to store. but nothing competing with our community in Brookville. I'm not going to sell chocolates because we have Dan Smith candies here, or I'm not going to sell cupcakes because of coffee cakes. You know what I'm saying? People don't realize what an awesome town this is. The beautiful antique stores we have, we're sending them all down to everybody. I'm saying, go down to this antique store, go down to this gift shop, go down to the candy store. You know, it's people helping people. All I'm doing is making shine. That's it, man. It's great.
My name is Corey Santoriello. I am the Marketing and Public Relations Coordinator at the Laurel Eye Clinic, and I'm here to talk about the Laurel Eye Clinic and Laurel Laser and Surgery Center. In 1973, Dr. Stephen Greenberg came to Brookville to start his own practice. He had a small office down on Pickering Street. He practiced there for about 11 years. He decided to expand, so in 1984, the Laurel Eye Clinic building, as we kind of know it today, was built on Waterford Pike. He chose Brookville because he wanted an area that he could draw patients to that was close to a major highway, but far enough away from the cities that patients wouldn't gravitate there. We are definitely a patient-first practice. We take into consideration the needs of the patients before anything else. We do a lot in the community. There's a couple different things that we like to do on a yearly basis. One is a Giving Eyes program. We open up an essay contest and allow individuals to write an essay that will allow them to possibly have LASIK eye surgery. So it gives us a chance to give back to all those patients and all those people in the communities that we serve. We also hold a community food bank drive every year. Today, the Laurel Eye Clinic has 10 locations, Brookville being the main headquarters. And we're as far east as Altoona, Duncansville, as far south as Bedford, and as far west as Grove City, Pennsylvania. I'm very excited to be a part of this community. There are a lot of great things that go on. Downtown Main Street's really starting to get a lot of new things for the whole family, adults, kids, activities, things like that. The school is great. It's a really exciting time to raise a family in Brookville.
My name's Edward Frank. My story is about Scripture Rocks and the Bible tree here near Brookville. Scripture Rocks is a series of about 500 or more rocks that have been carved with Bible verses. They're carved by a man named Douglas Stallman in the early 1900s. Douglas Stallman was born in Kirkman in Jefferson County in 1861. Douglas Stallman had been a school teacher. At some time around 1900 or so, he got religion. He moved here to Brookville in 1907. At the time, he produced a series of leaflets and cards that he gave out free to people with religious themes. He later then started hanging out at these rocks and praying at them. By 1910 or so, he's spending almost all of his time out at the rocks. In 1911, he basically moved out there and became a hermit. He started carving Bible verses in the rocks, and each one of the rocks, he would dedicate it to a specific purpose, or at least the larger rocks he would. They have large words carved on them like veil lifting, or faith, or health. And associated with them are smaller verses from the Bible that seem to illuminate the subject of the dedication. The idea was that he would have people come out. If they had problems with health, they'd come out and pray at the health rock. If they have trouble with faith, they come out and pray at the faith rock. She cried, travailing in birth. Altogether, he carved over 500 rocks. They're arranged in a semicircle around Brookville, from North Fork, Port Barnett, and on out Mill Creek. At the same time, he also carved several trees, where he carved Bible verses into the bark of trees. I don't know how many there were initially. There still are 2 left. The one tree I know of is in fairly poor shape. The bottom of it is rotting. The rot is severe enough that it's going to fall over if it gets hit with a good windstorm. Pulpit rock or altar rock doesn't have any carvings on it at all. Stallman would give sermons from atop the rock, and there was actually wooden benches surrounding it, and people come from Brookville and surrounding areas and sit in these benches while Stallman would preach to them. He was very popular initially, but after a few years, his behavior became more and more erratic, and eventually he was sent down to the insane wing of the Western Pennsylvania Hospital in Pittsburgh. He lived there from the 1920s until he died in 1942. Almost every town has some historical park that's been there for a while, but there's not very many towns that have something as unique as a series of 500 rocks carved with Bible verses, or 150-year-old trees carved with Bible verses by a hermit who lived in the woods. I've been to them where there's been literally busloads of people come from Pittsburgh to come see scripture rocks. And certainly that makes it a unique story, which I thought was important to bring out for our town, Brookville.
My name is Linnea Darren, and I'm here to talk about Dan Smith's Candies. Uncle Dan, Dan Smith's Candies was my uncle. And many, many years ago, when we used to go from Renova to Conneaut Lake, coming down through Brookville, coming home, Uncle Dan had a candy and ice cream shop here in Brookville. And so as we were coming down the hill, my father would say to all 6 of us kids, we can go to Uncle Dan's and you can have all of the ice cream you want because it's free, because it's your Uncle Dan. But anyway, we thought Aunt Marie and Uncle Dan were the most wonderful things when we were children, and I never thought that I would ever, ever own Dan Smith's Candies. My brother Roy came back from Vietnam, and Uncle Dan gave Roy a job. He worked for Uncle Dan for 9 years, and then Uncle Dan sold Roy the business. And my brother had it for, I think it was about 13 or 14 years. My brother came to Frank and I and asked if we would like to buy the business. I tell everyone that I saw sucker written across my forehead. Since we have had the business, it has grown extensively. We do wholesale, we do fundraising, and then we also do retail. It is the original equipment that Uncle Dan had. And we also make candy bars. And what our candy bars are, we have peanut butter, which is number 1, coconut number 2, and chocolate nut number 3. And we sell thousands and thousands of candy bars, and we use it for fundraising, and they're still $1. Brookville couldn't be a nicer town. It's a beautiful town. There's a lot of activities going on in town. We just enjoy living here.
Hi, my name's Laura Hurdle, and I'm here to talk about Amazing Kids. The mission of Amazing Kids is to provide service for children in the area who are developmentally delayed. We provide that service in their homes and in local daycares and other facilities. Amazing Kids is located here in Brookville. We have physical therapists, occupational therapists, speech therapists, nutritionists, and teachers. In the homes, my therapists will help the children to learn new skills, help their families to understand better what's happening, give the families ideas of things to try, and provide them with as much support as we can. We have partnered with other community organizations here in Brookville. We have a play group that we collaborate with, the Create Cafe. It meets every Friday. It's free for anyone in the community. In the summer, we often get bigger groups of kids who are home from school. It's really a fun time. We do a lot of really interesting activities, messy play and art and music, outdoor activities, sensory play, anything that the kids might be interested in. Seeing those kids is amazing. When we start with some of our infants, they're just coming out of the neonatal intensive care unit, and watching them as they grow and develop is absolutely amazing. They are incredible little people, and we really enjoy seeing them and their families. Before I started the company and brought on some of my different staff members, there were many families who were having difficulty finding services here in the community and were actually traveling to go to Pittsburgh for appointments. And now we can provide those services in their home without the need to travel that far. I love that there is a sense of community, that we are working together, especially with CREATE, bringing new things into the community and really working together for the children of this community.
I'm Carol Briggs, and I'm the curator here at the Jefferson County History Center on Main Street in historic Brookville. Because one of our favorite members, Bill McCracken, cannot be here today, I'm going to tell you a little bit about the Twyford Motor Car. This was a turn-of-the-century invention by a fella by the name of Twyford, who came to town, built a factory, started manufacturing a car about 1905, 1906. It was demonstrated at the Buffalo Auto Show, got good reviews, and then all of a sudden the financing for the company left and the factory closed, and he moved to Texas. Supposedly, it is the first four-wheel drive car in the country, a claim to fame that we have. Bill McCracken, who is a local historian, mechanic, served in World War II. When he was about 12 years old, he was hired to sweep the floor at the factory where this car had been built. And one of the things that his boss taught him to do when he was 12 was to use calipers and to measure. And Bill measured everything in that building, including the posts that held up the roof. Later then, as an adult, he was retired, he located photographs of this Twyford automobile. One of the photographs was of the chassis next to the post that Bill had measured. Bill took those measurements, extrapolated, and during the 1980s, he built the replica that we have downstairs in our main gallery, Living on the Land. During the 1980s, 1990s, and probably even in 2001, 2002, the Twyford hit a lot of parades in western Pennsylvania. It was a pretty well-known automobile. We opened the History Center in 2004, and it was, I think, the fall of 2003 that Bill finally decided that it was time for the Twyford to be put to rest, and it would no longer be toted out to drive in various parades. People do enjoy coming. We have visitors who make special trips just to see this replica of this unknown car. I'm not a native, and sometimes I get asked, why in the world am I so interested in history? I think the idea of place is extraordinarily important. When young people and older people have a sense of the place where they live, they will be better citizens, and all around, the community will just be a much more positive kind of place for people to come to, for people to stay, for people to visit.
Hello, I'm Nick Augie, and here to talk about Miller Welding and Machine Company. Miller Welding and Machine Company was started as a small company in 1963 by our founder, David R. Miller. Since then, we've grown to become a multi-million-dollar contract manufacturer. The company now is a pretty crucial part to major manufacturer, equipment manufacturer supply chains. We've come from being a job shop type of mentality to more of a contracted long-term manufacturer. Miller Welding and Machine Company makes structural steel components for original equipment manufacturers. Many of these manufacturers in construction, a simple example would be like a bulldozer. We are actually producing many of the structural components that belong to that machine. So we do all the fabricating, welding, machining, painting, and mechanical assembly to produce those scopes of supply. In Brookville, between our two facilities, we have approximately 400 people and an additional 100 people in our third facility in Homer City, Pennsylvania. A lot of manufacturing is coming back to the U.S. right now. Many of the original equipment manufacturers who are brokering deals with the government are required to a huge percentage of Buy America. So I think manufacturing is making a huge comeback, and it's the place to be. Miller has, since our founding, always given back to the community. You can really see the impact that companies of our size, other companies included, really have on this community. It's nice to know that you work with one of several pillars in Brookville, PA. It's a fantastic company. Excited to grow with them. They definitely have a very promising future. My family and I were living in Brooklyn, New York for about 6 years. We had our daughter in Saranac Lake, New York, and decided shortly thereafter that we wanted to be back in Pennsylvania, closer to family. I wanted to make a conscious decision to get into manufacturing because it seemed to be a prominent thing in Pennsylvania. Miller Welding kind of found me. It kind of brought us back to a good, happy medium in this region. It's a fantastic place to raise a family. It's an ideal way of life.
My name is Rich Conti, and I'm here to represent Matson Lumber and Matson Insurance. And we want to thank you for showing up and giving us a chance to talk about our town and our businesses. Matson Insurance was co-founded by Bob and Joanne Matson in 1947, presently being managed by the third generation. Joanne Matson was the first woman passed by the Hartford Insurance School. Pretty proud of that. The lumber company has a little bit more history. It's been around over 200 years. First part was just floating logs down the river to Pittsburgh and Cincinnati. The lumber company is now being managed by the 9th generation of the Matson family. We have 200 plus employees between the two companies, direct. We have many more contracts, some of the fellows that work in the woods and drive the log trucks. Many of our employees have been here 25, 30 years, long time. So we're very, very blessed with that. There's a lot of people counting on the right decisions being made so that the company can continue into the future. We're fortunate to be in this area in Pennsylvania because if you take the whole range of species that grow in our forests, there's probably none better in the world than what we see in this northwestern corner of Pennsylvania. And that's kind of what gives Matson Lumber the opportunity to put out a really quality product. We sell globally, we sell nationally, 20 plus states a year, 20 plus countries a year. We're recognized as a quality leader. You know, we try to do things right. And it's kind of nice to get the feedback from your customers that their experiences with your product make you feel good, and they tell you about it. You know, for a small town, because it's so easy to meet people, and people are so friendly, it's really easy to develop close friendships with a lot of people. People that you can really laugh with and have a good time with and do things with. The people I've met are a great group of friends.
My name's Don Gillen, and my topic is the Pittsburgh and Shawmut Railroad and its history and what it's doing today. The railroad started in the early 20th century and until 1917 was part of the Pittsburgh and Shawmut Northern Railroad that went into New York State. But in 1917 they broke away from the Northern Division because it went into a long receivership. The P&S Southern Division was a money-making operation, and the owners of that decided to break away. The railroad was primarily a coal-hauling railroad. All along the 88 miles of main line, from Brockway, Pennsylvania in the north to Freeport, Pennsylvania in the south, were different small tipples all along the way. The crews would load coal during the day, and oftentimes the coal would be picked up at night. Brookville was a small town. Really, a large portion of the population depended on the railroad company for their own personal transportation and to provide jobs for the local people. The shop area in Brookville was completely self-sufficient. They did their refluing of their boilers there. They had 2 full-time blacksmiths. Then they had a large car department that took care of a large fleet of hopper cars and a few coaches, Then they had the maintenance of way department that took care of the track and the roadbed. They had a carpenter crew that took care of the bridge decks and all the wooden tie structures on the bridges, and also all the buildings on the different properties that the company owned. Today, the Pittsburgh and Shawmut has become part of the Buffalo and Pittsburgh. The shop itself is still in operation as a heavy repair shop for all of Genesee and Wyoming that owns the B&P Railroad. Many of the former P&S employees are still working for the Buffalo and Pittsburgh Railroad. I'm proud to say that I belonged to that organization for 35 years, and I'm a third-generation railroader. In '96, I became a locomotive troubleshooter for the Buffalo and Pittsburgh and traveled all over western Pennsylvania and western New York. I never dreamed that years later I'd be working on the same locomotives that I saw working on the railroad. It has been a lifelong passion. I have a pretty extensive library of photographs and stories, and somebody said, "Boy, Don, you have a lot of stories." And I said, "Yeah, most of them are true."
I'm Ella Zimmerman. I'm here to talk about the Bowdish Railroad. We walked here from school to see the History Center. I like it because you can see what Brookville used to look like. There was lots of things that are not here. They've changed, but they're kind of still here because the building's still there, but parts of it have changed. We saw the History Museum building in there, and it looks a lot different. You can still see the bricks when you look outside, but they're purple bricks now instead of the color of bricks. You can see the logs on the train, and there's a lot of lumber companies around here that have logs, and they do logs. My favorite part is how everything moves. It's not just standing there, it all moves. More stuff moves than stuff that doesn't move. It looks like it's real because everything's moving and everybody's doing something, and every time you look at it, you see something different. They close in January and February to change it. When we came before, there was no drive-in theater. Now there is a drive-in theater, and the drive-in thing, it's not just a box, it's got a movie playing in it. I like that there's woods all over. There's trees and there's woods and there's animals everywhere you go. I like to play outside. Brookville's home to me because that's where all my friends are and all my family and everyone I know pretty much.
I'm Teresa Etter, and I'm the Director of Mission Advancement at WRC Senior Services. The mission of WRC Senior Services was to care for the veterans, the widows, and the orphans of the Civil War. Kate Scott was an Army nurse here in the Brookville area, and she and a group of ladies, 5 women, had decided they would like to start a nursing home here in the Brookville area. It was a great challenge for them. We began in the Philip Taylor House, which was originally a hotel. It was called the Hotel Longview. The hotel was purchased by Kate Scott and the ladies that had formed WRC Senior Services. They grew then to the PA Memorial Home. From there, 12 years ago in August, we moved into what is now the Laurelbrook Landing, where we're currently housed. Kate was a great activist at the time, and Clorinda is portraying Kate here in the community and bringing her to life for us and doing a fabulous job for us.
And as I sat there, I thought, how few good Pennsylvania citizens knew about the hard work the Women's Relief Corps had done to make this home happen for our veterans.
Times are definitely different. In the beginning, there were rules of the house that we had found in our archives. They were required at the time to go to church. They were required to have a bath once a week. These are things that we don't think about today. We have so many freedoms today that people didn't have back then. We've come a long way from what was traditionally known as a nursing home to what we are today. We have locations in Ridgeway, New Bethlehem, and Shippenville. Knowing that this organization was started by such a courageous woman is such a wonderful place to work. And what a great honor it is to carry on their legacy. We all feel it at WRC, and we all enjoy carrying on that legacy.
My name is Jeff Hartzell. My subject for today is the Jefferson County Area Beekeepers Association. It's a local club that we started as a group of folks that founded it. We started the beekeeping organization basically to support local beekeepers in learning more about keeping bees, keeping their bees alive, and increasing the knowledge in beekeeping. We started it actually in 2012. We've got probably between 40 and 50 members. My primary area of expertise is actually to make increases to raise bees more than it is honey at this point. Usually you either make bees or you make honey. It's hard to do increases and at the same time increase your honey production. I'm surprised by the number of people who are still getting into beekeeping. Brookville's kind of grown, over the last 10, 15, 20 years. But, there's a lot of people that want to, maybe they don't live as a farmer anymore, but they want to kind of get back to those roots. And whether it be gardening or beekeeping or, those types of things, that seems to appeal to a lot more people these days.
Well, my name is Scott Gilbert, and I'm here to talk about an app development company called AG Logic. AG Logic is an app development company. We specialize in creating web apps, mobile apps, and desktop apps. Our real specialty right now is mobile apps for iPhone and Android devices. We've been doing web app development for years, but we wanted to test the waters with mobile app development. So we decided to create an app as a prototype, and something simple, we created a weather app.
Looking at the weather can be pretty bland and boring.
We came up with what we call a different kind of weather app, and we titled it Swacket, which stands for sweater, jacket, or coat. What do you use weather information for? Do I need a jacket today? Do I need to grab a sweater?
Animated snow and rain.
We heard that Apple was launching a new web-based app store. We worked straight through Christmas in 2010. We submitted our app to the App Store, and this new App Store opened on January 6th, 2011. To our surprise, Apple featured our app on the homepage of that store. And on the first day, we saw 30,000 downloads. After 10 days, we saw 100,000 downloads. And a new company was born out of that. My partner and I worked at a prestigious design firm in Pittsburgh for years. We decided to move back to the country to get away from rush hour traffic. We grew up in this area, Cook Forest, Marionville, Brookville, Clarion. But Brookville was kind of the town that we centered in. It's a great town to launch a small business. And the kind of work that we do, internet-based, technology-based, you can do it from anywhere, but we choose to do it from Brookville. It's interesting because when you're growing up in a small town, you can't wait to get out. I love that I can walk across the street for a cup of coffee. I love that I can walk to my office and walk home. I love that I can take my dog to the office and go out for a walk when I need a break or fresh air. The quintessential American small town, I think it's really fading away. And Brookville is one of those main streets that is still a thriving, quintessential American small town. We love it.
Hi, my name is Brent McNeil, and I'm here to talk briefly about Brookville Equipment. Brookville Equipment is a small local manufacturer that has quite a rich history. Founded in 1918, a gentleman who was a Ford dealer changed out the rubber tires for flanged wheels to run trucks and cars on the rails. But it soon evolved into custom manufacturing, all sorts of industries, sugarcane, farming, logging. There are some really unique and interesting designs. school buses, refrigerated cars. In the 70s and 80s, the product focused on underground mining and tunneling. So low height, low profile, super clean emissions. More recently, we've emerged in the last 10 years into public transportation. So streetcars and locomotives that'll pull passenger cars. The people at Brookville Equipment are really the core to our collective success. From the shop floor, the mechanics, electricians, and welders, to the designers and the engineers, all focused on the common goal of innovative, custom products, cutting edge. We're not stuck in the history of what we've done in the past, but very much looking toward the future. With some of the green environmental movement of the last 10 years, it's really changed our industry significantly. So it's kind of the forethought and the innovation of the original people who settled here are just a special batch. It's really a great community. Traveling to other similar type communities, I think Brookville has really a standout shining star.
Hi, I'm Phil Hines. I'm here to acquaint you with the latest addition in the Brookville area, the spectacular Red Bank Valley Trail. A lot of people aren't even aware that Brookville has a rail trail. That's because it didn't exist before 2010. That was the year that the Allegheny Valley Land Trust was able to rail bank the corridor. They entered into an affiliation with the Red Bank Valley Trail Association to develop the recreational trail. This trail has its northernmost terminus in Brookville. It follows Red Bank Creek and the scenic Red Bank Valley through the towns of Somerville, Hawthorne, and New Bethlehem, all the way down to the confluence at the Allegheny River north of Kittanning. There's also a spur that goes up into Clarion County to the town of Sligo. And this is a total of 51 scenic miles. It includes 9 stone arches, 3 tunnels, 18 bridges. And it gets even bigger than that, because very soon it will join up with the Armstrong Trail north of Kittanning, which in turn will join up with a trail that goes from Erie to Pittsburgh. And at Pittsburgh, it's going to join with the Great Allegheny Passage that goes the whole way to Washington, D.C. The development of this trail has been sort of remarkable. A small group of volunteers, mainly from New Bethlehem, with the help of the Allegheny Valley Land Trust and private concerns such as Rosebud Mining, in a period of 2.5 years, has been able to put down over 40 miles of crushed limestone. They've redecked 14 of the 18 bridges. Currently, there's a project to revitalize the Climax Tunnel, which will open up the southern end of the trail. I do a lot of biking on there, and in the winter I do a lot of cross-country skiing. It's truly a multi-use, non-motorized trail. It's great for hiking, biking, geocaching, bird watching, fishing. It's just a really valuable asset to anybody who loves the outdoors. DCNR this year named the Red Bank Valley Trail its Trail of the Year. The economic impact of these kind of trails is really crucial to small towns. We're going to be developing a trailhead in downtown Brookville. Outdoor enthusiasts can have a wonderful day on this trail and then come into downtown Brookville and enjoy the amenities of our wonderful Victorian town. We have a great main street. The town itself is friendly. It's nice to live in a town where everyone knows everyone else and can get involved, and it's a special place.
And that's Our Town Brookville, a look at the Jefferson County community through the eyes of its residents. Support for Our Town Brookville comes from Miller Welding and Machine Company, a single-source solution for metals manufacturing, and a proud employer and supporter of the Brookville community for more than 50 years. More information at millerwelding.com. The Matson Companies, providing the world with hardwood lumber for over 200 years and the community with a full line of insurance services since 1947. Information at matsonlumber.com and matsoninsurance.com. And from viewers like you, thank you.